Tēnā koutou e te iwi. Hā ki te hā, manawa ki te manawa. Tihei mauri ora. Kia rongo koutou ki te reo irirangi o Tune Me In podcast.
Tēnā koe e hoa. Ai se pātai tuatahi ko wai. And he mea pātai tuarua. What does music mean for you? Kia ora.
Kia ora. Tēnā tātou, tēnā koutou. I ahu mai tēnei i runga i te maunga ko ngongo taha ka titiro whakararo au. Ko rōtoro nui a kahumata momoe. Ka tūngau au ki te motu a tini rau. I to topi ai te kawakawa ka whakiripo i te iwa ki o hau. Hoa anō ko tēnei aku nei tūhono ki Ngāti Whakaue. I ki roto tēnei te takere o te arawa, ke Rotorua. He tūhono hoki ki Ngai Tūhoi, ki Patu Hiuhiu, tata atu ki Waiohau. He tūhono aho hoki, tūhono anō aho hoki ki te aitanga Mahaki, ki te Karaka. Te taho tōku whānau Hāronga, Kahukiwa tōku ingoa. Tēnā tātou katoa. Aku nei tūhono ki te iwi Pākehā hoki ko Ngāti Tiamani, Ngāti Kotirana. My mum's Scottish and German from down Christchurch way, so anyway, that's me, Kahukiwa, Mauri ora.
Kia ora. So Kelly, you just want to have a quick kōrero about our kaupapa this weekend, and then what does music mean for you? I know it's a bit of a big question, but yeah. Kia hapo whakaaro.
What does music mean to me? Gee, such a huge question. I think when you sort of prompted me with that, I thought, well, have we got 2 years or something to have this kōrero? Because as a lot of people, vibration, sound, music is really the collection of all that to me. So it's kind of a strand and something I've been interested in my whole life as I've worked out. So it means life to me. Life is everything. Life is vibration. You can hear the manu out here right now. The interaction with us and their natural world is just as important as music making on a stage with my mates. And it's a celebration. It's a celebration of life. It's a celebration of the things that are intangible. We think, where does aroha come from? Where do all the emotions inside of us come from? We can't touch them or feel them, and music kind of is a way to help to link into that world too. Like, where does actually music come from? You can collect all these ideas together, and I've studied music part of my life. Been a professional musician. I've toured places around the world playing music and realising that music is a language that you can connect to people with. When you don't have their language and they don't have yours, you actually have music. So what a taonga, what a treasure. It means life to me. And it's nurtured me, it's looked after me. And so, I've always thought, how do I give back to music itself? So,
What has been some of its like interwoven parts of music? How music can be a lot of things that kind of come together and form this love that you're talking about. What have been some of those experiences, like whether it be like rongoa or the whakaero or the rāranga space? What are some of the things that have interwoven music for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What are some of the things that interwoven music, and what are the strands, I guess, when we look at a kete like this one behind me? I'll just pull it up actually, because let's use. What does music mean for me? What are the interwoven strands that make music what it is for me in my life? So I like to think of things like this, the imagery of a kete, which we look at often. We think about all these different whenua or the strands inside of it. And literally, if I look at this kete, I could probably choose as many different pathways inside what we call the music world. This is how big my kete would probably look with all the different strands. One of those started off to me to be a way out of the neighbourhood surroundings that I had. Positive language that was actually being spoken by other people to help me connect into what I'd probably now term to be more wealthy communities. I could talk to kids way outside of my community that I grew up in through the language of music, and there was a symbiotic relationship happening here. So that was the first strain that got me out of a neighbourhood way of thinking that I didn't have access to. Music made that happen. Suddenly I bridged into new pathways, friendships. Then it gave me the idea of like, hey, those people on stage just grew up like kind of me as I started to learn these stories. I think learning the stories of musicians is really important. And I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about Beethoven actually. I'm talking about people like Stravinsky. When I started to learn about these people, they were just like higher level thinkers, but they also had kind of mischief childhoods. They had Like when circumstances, you know, Beethoven's deafness was something that like totally intrigued me. Like, how does the dude make music and he's so deaf? So it gave me access to world history. So music then started to make me interested in the world and the language that people spoke. And considering I had a bit of German ancestry too, I was kind of interested in, oh, Beethoven's from Bonn, where's that? Where did I come from? So it started to make me think about my own connections to me. Yeah, it woke it all up, and it keeps doing that. And then as I got older, I started to hear this, you know, in my 20s and 30s. I was like, man, what are they singing to? Are they celebrating? I got this idea that maybe they're celebrating like life itself. And you kind of hear when the birds come back, you know, at 4:30 p.m., 5:30 p.m., they have this big conference. Like, what are they talking about? But it sounds really melodic to me. So it made me start thinking that the way we interact actually with our environment is important when we music. So I started playing music just in the forest, just with the trees and the birds. I don't care about an audience. And that gave me bravery to actually then go out and busk. So I started busking out on the streets instead of taking all my music to the stages of the world and nationally. I started busking and I started realizing I was connecting at a way better level, playing on the street with people who are coming in for the markets in Whangarei on a Saturday. So it's all about connection, and it's all about expressing a feeling of love. And it's reciprocated through koha, that people might koha you food or kai or, you know, money, their time and energy of telling you their life story about how I played the saxophone for a while. Oh man, my grandfather used to play the saxophone, and to hear it brings back a whole memory of my grandfather's house. So thank you so much for playing this today. So it's an awakening up of people's cellular memory of a time in their life, and to be able to have that as a taonga, to be able to gift to people, is just something that some of us have. There's a responsibility with it, and I never treasured it until I started to hear some of the older people talk about how music brought them out of their loss of memory into suddenly have sharp, crisp memory. I played in the military, so I played for a lot of old veterans, and it taught me too that music crosses generations now. I'm a 20-year-old playing to 70 and 80-year-olds, and they're rocking the show, you know, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I don't have to be playing to my own generation, I can play across the generations. So music's life, brother.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about relationships with the taiao and in the conversations that happen in those different spaces. And during this wānanga, we were learning about whioro and puoro and the relationship between those, between the human voice and the taiao voice. You want to just have a small kōrero about that?
Yeah, so what we busted open in this particular wānanga was some simple concepts. So we started off saying, tapa tapa ki te papa, whakatangi ki te rangi. Those two phrases are something we formulated to get inside the hearts of our participants here, to talk about how, and first and foremost, we usually in a Te Ao Māori context, we talk about what's above us first and then come down. But for this particular case, I wanted to reverse that idea, because music starts from the rhythms. So we looked at paying tribute. The word tapa tapa is another word for karakia. Tapa tapa, it's got a nice rhythm to it, so it sounds nice for musicians to be able to use rhythmic words too. Tapa tapa ki te papa. That's paying tribute to the earth itself, and there's a whole frequency that comes out of that, which is rhythmic. We know that because there's an earth hum that happens, and there's certain rhythmic frequencies that happen at parts of the world which formulate different rock formations. So geology is based also on the science of, we have a look at the inner workings of that. It's called quantum physics now. Our tupuna had a different word for that, which we now cloak as a phrase under mātauranga Māori, but actually it was the very close observations of relationship of time and place of humans to the earth itself. First of all, there's a whole bunch of emanations of vibration coming out, and we call that whioro. And those vibrations, we can't hear all of them, because the human hearing range only goes up to, well, for supersonic hearers, it's about 20,000 hertz. So I think mine sort of cuts it at about maybe 18,000. You start hearing really, really faint squeaks that are happening in your hearing. But above that is seen to be supersonic for us, or ultrasonic frequencies. So whioro is a term for the ultrasonic frequencies and the known frequencies. It's a whole collective of frequencies. What our ancestors left behind is from te pū, te more, te weu, te aka, te rea, te waunui, te kune, te whē, te kore, te pō. That was just the steps leading up to the great night being created. So whē is the sound vibration being emanated now to cloak everything as part of the great design of everything. So we can relate those concepts to worldwide concepts. We look at physics And Indian people have a really beautiful way of also describing things that comes through the Vedas that are hidden and cloaked inside of their teachings. We have our own in Mātauranga Māori. Fair oro is that ultra frequency band. Some will sort of call it subsonic frequencies too, those frequencies that are below human hearing, which is the very, very low hums that we don't intuit, but some animals do. That's why they can intuit earthquakes coming ahead of time. So we know that that's the fair oro. The pū oro is a term right now that we can move around different communities. Say, what's pū oro? Pū oro, though, in this context, is actually the band of frequencies where humans are now in control of the frequencies that we make. And that's why we call music, because we don't really call what birds do music. It's something that's a human pursuit. So pū oro are the things that we make, the instruments that we may collect and fabricate to then celebrate each other. We can celebrate the natural world too, but we know we can't really talk to bats with pū oro unless we're doing something incredible here that they can intuitively pick up on outside of their frequency range. So the pū oro is human to human and inside our frequency band range. That's probably the best way I could describe it, related to other knowledge that we know too from Western knowledge.
Mean, bro. Well, here, pātai whakamutinga. If you were back in the classroom again as a student, what would that look like, feel like, sound like?
Man, yeah, that's a really good question, because I had some really good teachers as a primary school student down at Parkview Primary down in Christchurch. I left for Rotorua just before I turned 5. So actually I started my schooling down there, the school called Queen's Park, and then I went to Parkview, and I had a beautiful teachers who used to walk around with their guitar, and kind of hippies, I guess. So music was always there to kind of calm us down. But I do remember that experience that I've talked to a few people about, how you get this plastic thing you put in your mouth and it tastes like Dettol, and you blow it, and then you're kind of hitting the ultra frequencies in your neighborhood. It's called a recorder. So that's how music looked to me. We had recorders kind of in some trays. They'd turn up, we'd have to dip it in Dettol, and that was a kind of, I don't know, some people use the word traumatic experience. It's not traumatic, it's just disgusting. It was this disgusting music experience for me as a kid. So it was like, by the time you got rid of the taste of the Dettol, the music class was over, and then you're having to try to eat your Marmite sandwich to get rid of the Dettol. So get rid of that. If that's gone, I hope that's gone. I'm pretty sure it's gone. But still, ukulele is a cool practice too, having those on the wall. But then again, not everyone resonates with strings. Some people, I think it's good to teach kids breath. So for me, it'll be perhaps having something like a taonga, such as something simple. This is known as the kōauau. And you may have encountered this, but literally it's just basically any type of instrument which has a channel through it where air can pass through, and you have the idea to release that air at certain tonal nodal systems which you related to the finger. There's my first knuckle, there's a hole. Second knuckle, there's a hole. Third knuckle, there's a hole. But the man who built this thing, his name is Clem Mellish. He's got different finger, his dimension's a little bit different than me, so he's built it on his, and it's made out of marble, this one, so not this one in the classrooms, but too heavy. But you can get them made out of other materials. If we had kids able to just breathe into them, make simple sounds. Yeah, it's a minor scale. I don't know, it might sound a bit sad for the kids, but you can celebrate music just by learning how to do these. Maybe learning how to, if you're near a beach, you don't need much. You could have a simple little shell, an anga. This one here is actually from up near Whatuwhiwhi. So way up north, where Christian is from. So this is just a little simple shell, and just teaching kids the actual idea of the spiral. And how the spiral then shapes things like trombones, shapes things like the cornet, not so much the trumpet, but anyone knows the physics of brass instruments, this is really the great ancestral grandfather of all of those instruments. So taking kids back to the natural world to learn how to interact with it, I would love to see that if I was a kid. I would have been buzzed out by how to make sounds with stones. I know that they teach around the world. In Brazil, there's a school called Candial, which teaches the kids very first and foremost. It's in a favela, which is a slum, and they teach kids with leaves. Fall off the trees, they teach them with rubbish, they make rhythms. So I would like our music teachers to be empowered to go and learn more complex things, and rather like, hey, follow after me, kids. And then the whole kid, after about 2 months of that, kids get bored. They can go to really high levels. I've seen kids in Brazil who are like 5, 6 years old, and they're basically going, hey, here's your rhythm, okay? You're going to go, 10 kids have got that rhythm. That's their first level one. You kids over there with the leaves, you're now doing this. Kids pick that up. They might make mistakes for the first week. Put them together. That's the first two levels. So I would like to see us as music teachers pushing, well, music teachers, younger people actually pushing the rhythmic envelope out and the container out a bit further, and introducing them to music making from the environment, using the natural resources, and also maybe making through having a contract to probably make something like Kahukiwa that is available in every class. And if it's one that the kids take home as their own taonga, they bring it, kei te pai. I'm not really doing much effort here. There's no secret tricks or skills to this. It's just a little bit of time and effort. You can make a tiny little shell into something that now you're able to interact with the environment. You know, some of the kids I've taught this, they swear that they're calling the dolphins in when they go down to the beach, but the whole idea is they're interacting with your environment in a way that makes them connected. If we have more connected kids, we have more people who are going to be concerned about things that happen in the environment because they're not disconnected. So sound making with the environment is a really beautiful tool of kaitiakitanga, first and foremost, because it gets into the hearts of the children. Hey, if those shells aren't on my beach anymore that I was collecting, what's happening out there? You know, they don't have to all become marine biologists, but they can be thinking about their own practice and behavior as humans. So I just think it's a way of increasing connectivity. If you can connect to your environment, you connect to your fellow person, your fellow human, I think that gets us back to the place of community aroha. And, you know, aroha is not just love, it's compassion. So we need to get back to a state of compassion. And these are definitely beautiful instruments for healing, for those who need it, but also if you don't need healing, how to create connection to others then. So that's my TED Talk. Kia ora.
Nā mihi mō tō kōrero e hoa. And definitely for me too, good to see, I guess, the revival of those kind of taonga and between the different sounds of whioro and puoro being introduced back into the classroom and having our kids create and make and play in that space within the taiao. Yeah, so just nā mihi mō te kōrero e hoa, and thank you for your time.
Kia ora, brother.
Nā mihi whakanuia kia Bradley me te whare crescendo. Nā mihi anō kia Lions Foundation mō te putia tautoko. E te iwi, ko Jessica tēnei, mā te wā.